everybody, and welcome in for another episode of the Lions Grid. As we sort of talked about yesterday, luckily, we can kick off today's episode on a happy note because the Lions did, in fact, emerge victorious from their matchup with the New York Giants. Of course, here on the bottom of the screen, final score 31-26, Lions defending the den against the Giants. And really, I think the best place to start kicking off this is we'll take a look here at some of the team stats and whatnot. So tossing it up on the screen now, you can see the breakdown here for both teams. As mentioned, 31-26 the final score there. You can see Giants with a slight edge in first downs and plays as well as time possession. Lions did gain 5 more yards throughout the game. Certainly just slightly more effective through the passing game, and then the Giants able to run the ball more effectively. Lions went 1 for 1 in the red zone. The Giants went 2 for 3. Both teams, the Lions called for more penalties, had more penalty yards there, so advantage Giants in that. And then, of course, 2 turnovers for the Lions compared to a single turnover for the Giants in this game. So overall, nothing too surprising. I think, obviously, Matthew Stafford sort of led the charge there for the Lions. And, in fact, here I do have a tweet that I liked from Kyle Menke. He's currently working for M Live, I believe, and I put a link to his Twitter channel, or his Twitter, down in the description of this video if you want to go check out more from him. But you can see here, stat from this game, Matthew Stafford didn't throw an incomplete pass in the second half. The Lions passed on the ball on every third down for the game, and Stafford went 12 of 13 for 200 yards. So not only did Stafford have a very good game, but he had some of his best throws, some of the most production he got was on those third downs, those key downs when the Lions needed him most. Matthew Stafford stepping up for the Lions in that game. And I know as a fantasy owner, certainly happy with the outcome there. Stafford definitely was able to take advantage of the Giants, who are by no means a very stout defense, especially when it comes to the passing game. They are known to be a little lackluster there, and it showed. It certainly showed. But, I think one of the things that has sort of been missing from the Lions so far this season has been the ability to capitalize on opportunities. They've certainly had some chances throughout the season. One of the, of course, first week of the season when they ended up losing that game to the Arizona Cardinals. That was certainly an opportunity for them to get a win there. They weren't able to capitalize. This game against the Giants, a team that, me and Joe both in agreement on. I think most people were in agreement that the Lions were the better team on paper. They took care of business. They got the win. And that's really all you can ask for. It's, as we sort of were talking about, this was the Lions' 7th game. So they had, 10 games left before this game. As I've been saying, I think the magic number to reach to make sure that you're guaranteed a playoff spot is right around that 10 wins mark. If you can get to those 10 wins, you can get into the playoffs with less than 10 wins. I think 10 wins is the number just so that you can feel really confident. And so, of course, they only had 2 wins coming into that game. A win there bumps them up to 3-1 on the season, puts them back at a 500 winning percentage. I know it's kind of weird. Play 7 games, be 500. Ties can certainly make that math interesting, but certainly an opportunity here now. Again, a team they should have got the win against. It makes things a little less bleak because with having now played 7 games, had they managed to lose the game to the Giants, it certainly would have been a bigger task because they have 9 games remaining at this point. A loss to the Giants would have meant they would have needed to win 8 of those 9 remaining games to hit the 10-win mark. Getting the win against the Giants means that they only need 7 more wins out of those 9 games to hit that 10 win mark. And again, the 10 number isn't a hard and fast thing. It's not like you have to get that to get into the playoffs. But again, I think that's what it might take given the level of competition we're seeing around the NFC to secure one of those wild card spots. Because unfortunately, with the Packers winning, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow during the Kings of the North episode, there's a lot of pressure there on the other teams. It looks like the Packers are firmly in the driver's seat in the NFC North. So if you can't catch the Packers, that means your next best hope is the wild card. And you have a number of teams that are there: the Seahawks, the Rams, the Vikings, potentially the Eagles. You know, they got that one against against Buffalo. It's not an easy road to securing a wild card, so it's going to be very important for the Lions moving forward to continue to capitalize on these opportunities. They have another game on the road next week, or this upcoming Sunday, against the Raiders. Again, I think a game they can win. They need to win because, you know, some of these other games are going to be very tough. They have to play the Vikings and Packers both again. They have to play the Bears twice. Should hopefully be able to beat the Bears. The Bears' offense is still looking pretty tragic there for Chicago, but you know, it's you got to take care of the game. You know, these games where you are favored, you got to definitely capitalize on them. And the Lions doing so this weekend against the Giants. Taking a look here at the leaders from the games, obviously passing the ball, you had Daniel Jones on the Giants side. You had Matt Stafford, of course, for the Lions. Stafford having a fantastic game there. He did throw one interception, which isn't listed there, but going 25 of 32 for 342 yards and 3 TDs. Daniel Jones, certainly, even though they lost this game, can't complain with a 28 of 41, 322 yards and 4 TD day. That's a pretty spectacular outing. Then you can see Golden Tate leading the way for the Giants, 8 receptions, 85 yards. Kenny Galladay, 6 receptions, 123 yards and 2 TDs for the Lions. Saquon Barkley, 19 carries, 64 yards for the Giants. And then Tra Carson for the Lions. The ended up being the number one back for yardage, 12 carries, 34 yards. Ty Johnson did give him a run for his money. He had 7 carries for, I think, 25 yards or something like that. But Tra Carson was the leader for the Lions at the end of the day when it comes to the rushing yards. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how things play out here moving forward. Certainly good, again, that the Lions got the win here. And one of the ways they did that was with their defense. Going to toss it up here on the screen now. Another tweet from Kyle Minke. But the Lions generated 21 QB pressures this week against New York. If you look at what they did against Green Bay and the Vikings, they had a combined 23 QB pressures in those two games. So almost equaling the 2-game total in a single game for the Lions. They were definitely able to generate much more pressure on Daniel Jones, which was nice to see. A lot of people have been, attributing that to the Lions blitzing more, and they actually blitzed less this game than they did the previous weeks against the Vikings. Hopefully it's not just a byproduct of the Giants not being very good. Obviously, Nate Solder's struggling there as the left tackle for the Giants, which is kind of a bummer for them because they spent a lot of money to lure him away from the Patriots, and he just hasn't, so far this season, he hasn't been earning that paycheck. He did well in a couple of the previous seasons, but this season certainly struggling. And Trey Flowers was able to pick up 2 sacks going up against him. So hopefully this can be used as sort of a building block. Also, another thing that contributed potentially to that success was this was the first game with Deshaun Hand back playing for the Lions. So it's going to be interesting to see if his presence back with that defensive line, what that means for the Lions D moving forward, because at least here in this 1 week, again, I'm sure the opponent played into it, was part of the equation, but the Lions defense definitely able to get after the quarterback much more than we've seen in previous weeks. So hopefully that's something that stays around. But I think something that is concerning, and there's some reports out there about the Eagles' interest in going after Darius Slay. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit here yesterday about everything that happened with Slay. Of course, we traded away Quandre Diggs for next to nothing. Slay definitely was not happy with that. He's, of course, dealing with an injury as well. And it seems like there's definitely some disconnect between him right now and the Lions organization. I know they asked Matt Patricia about him after the game yesterday, and he was very he was either doing like textbook coach talk where he didn't want to give up any information about him whatsoever because he was like he's like, I talked about this yesterday, I'm here to talk about how we played against the Giants today. So either he was just doing trying to do his best Bill Belichick, or it definitely felt, at least for me, like Darius Slay's days with Detroit may be coming to an end. There was a report from Chris Mortensen today that the Eagles were interested in going after Darius Slay. Of course, the rumor out there is that the Lions have a pretty big asking price for him, so it's unclear if the Eagles or any other team is going to be interested in paying that price. But it would be kind of sad because Darius Slay is certainly one of my favorite players on this Lions team. He's been one of my favorite Lions over the last few years. And it would just be sort of a disappointing end to his time with the Lions. If first there's this bad blood that starts to come out. Obviously, he was holding out for a new contract the same way Snack Harrison was. Snack's got a new contract. Slay didn't. But he's been there playing throughout the whole thing. He's been a little beat up this season, and certainly it's sort of been missed because it's forced Justin Coleman to play on the outside, and he's certainly much more suited for playing in that inside on the slot. Not as good on the outside. It's definitely like a Pro Bowler if you put him in the slot, but making him play wide is not his forte. It's... I get it. Like, you got to have players that are bought in with what you're trying to do as an organization, everything like that. I don't think Slay's being a distraction, and I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with voicing displeasure and moves. But it seems like maybe the Lions are wanting to make a move there, and it seems like the asking price might be pretty high, so I don't know if a deal will get done before the trade deadline. But the Eagles are one of the teams out there, certainly in need of DB help. That has been rumored to be potentially willing to make a move to come get Slay. So we'll have to keep an eye on that to see if he remains in that Honolulu Blue or if he doesn't go to another team this year, which would be sort of upsetting. In other trade news, the Kenyon Drake signed with was traded from Miami to Arizona, so it doesn't look like he'll be headed there to help try and replace headed here to help try and replace Kerryon Johnson. There's still some rumors out there that maybe we'd be interested in Melvin Gordon. Be interesting to see what happens there, but I want to say the rumor has it that Kyle Minke tweeted out that the Lions more likely to be buyers at the trade deadline here than sellers. So, but definitely, I think number one, they'd be willing to if someone meets their asks, I think they would be willing to trade Slay. But number two, they might be look to trying to get some running back help here while Kerryon's out, because certainly 12 carries for 34 yards out of Tra Carson isn't necessarily what you're looking for, although the Lions have kind of struggled running the ball season long. So maybe not worry about it and let Matt Stafford carry the team. Anyways, that will do it for today's episode here. If you did enjoy the show, please do help the channel grow. Dropping a like on this video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so are the two best ways to do so. We do have a goal of reaching 100 subscribers so we can unlock the custom URL for the YouTube channel. We're making good progress there, but still need some help. So if you're watching the video, haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Also, another item that's near and dear to my heart here, Extra Life. They are a fundraiser that generates money benefiting the Children's Miracle Network. The game day will be, and that's a day of 24-hour gaming. I'll be participating in this Friday, which is November 1st, to November 2nd, which is the official game day. In the description of this video, there is a link to my fundraising page if you'd like to contribute. I am specifically playing for the Beaumont Children's Hospital here in Southeast Michigan. So if you are interested in supporting this great cause. There is a link in the description, and you can follow that and check out and see some more info about what Extra Life does, as well as what we're doing at the company I work at, Workforce Software, to generate funds for this great cause. But that that will do it. We're hitting all the buttons now. We're all sort of discombobulated. That will do it for today's episode. We will be back, like I said, tomorrow for our typical Kings in the North NFC North standings video. If you're interested, tune in for that. Otherwise, we'll catch you later. I'm Kevin Marheine. This has been the Lions Grid. We'll catch you during the next video.